You might think mind reading is science fiction, something that will never happen. But actually, mind reading is not only possible, it's happening right now. And in the near future, it could change everything. What do we mean by mind reading? Not telepathy, where one person can literally read another person's mind. But if you listen carefully to what scientists say, you realize that what they are doing is basically the same thing. They're taking the information out of your head and showing it to you in another way. The most exciting part is that we have already solved many of the problems associated with mind reading, at least for some very particular things. And while we still have a long way to go before we can read anyone's mind, the fact that we can do anything at all is pretty mind-blowing. So here's how it works. Your brain communicates with the rest of your body through electrical signals. Specifically, it uses neurons, which are cells that communicate by firing off tiny electrical pulses. These pulses are then picked up by other neurons, which fire and pass on the signal. So when you decide to move your finger, a signal gets sent from your brain to your nerves, to your muscles. But even though these signals are electrical, they're much slower than the signals that run our phones or computers. This means that if we can read those electrical signals, we can figure out what you're thinking. In fact, that's exactly what's happening with the first type of mind-reading technology, which is called BCI, or Brain-Computer Interface. This tech can read those electrical signals coming from your brain and translate them into commands, texts, data, whatever we need. There are two main ways to do this. The non-invasive way is to put electrodes on your scalp. These electrodes measure the small electrical activity coming from your brain and translate it into something we can use. This is called an EEG because it doesn't require surgery. It's the most common type of BCI. The second option is to implant chips into your brain. This is called a surgical BCI because, well, it involves surgery. The good news is that these implants can be incredibly precise, meaning that they can pick up signals that are much faster and harder to detect. Both EEGs and invasive BCIs work by detecting the electrical activity in your brain and converting it into commands that can control something else, like a computer cursor. But the key is what happens in the middle, the actual translation process. What does your brain's electrical activity look like when it's thinking about a cat versus a dog? Scientists are currently working on this question, and their answers will determine what we can do with this technology. So let's talk about what we can already do today. First, controlling prosthetics. If you have a spinal cord injury, you might use a prosthetic limb to walk, a robotic arm to reach objects. The problem is that right now these prosthetics are controlled with straps and buttons and switches. That is, until now. Companies such as Neuralink and BrainGate are using BCs to allow paralyzed individuals to move robotic limbs with just their thoughts. Basically, they send signals to their brain and the brain knows exactly what to do with them. In a recent trial, a monkey was able to use its mind to control a cursor on a screen. It's just like a computer mouse, except without the mouse. The monkey could even type on a keyboard by looking at the letters. Of course, there's a lot of processing going on between the chip in the monkey's brain and the letter that appears on the screen. But that's just a matter of time until it happens in real life. We don't know exactly how long, but both Neuralink and BrainGate are recruiting monkeys for clinical trials. But it doesn't stop there. In another recent experiment, someone who has lost the ability to speak typed out text just by thinking about it. Again, that's just two examples of what's already happening today. And we're just getting started. There are plenty of people who have chips in their brains simply for the purpose of research, and the results are really promising. For example, researchers were recently able to get a chip in a man's brain to measure the electrical activity in different parts of his brain. This kind of real-time brain monitoring wasn't possible before today, and there are tons of other experiments happening at the same time. In one recent experiment, a chip in a monkey's brain allowed it to play a pong game by moving a paddle left and right with its mind. In another experiment, a chip in a monkey's brain allowed it to turn a light switch on and off by concentrating on it. Now, none of these are earth-shattering advancements, but they show that mind reading is real. You can see it in action today. Of course, all of these examples require chips to be implanted in someone's brain, which is invasive, expensive, and risky. But in the future, we should be able to do all of this with non-invasive technology. For example, EEGs are being used to help people with epilepsy control their seizures. In the future, we may be able to use EEGs to treat other conditions such as Parkinson's disease, depression. In fact, we have already seen some success with this. Researchers recently used an EEG to help a woman with Parkinson's disease stop shaking. Now, this was a one-off proof of concept and it didn't totally work, but it shows that this kind of treatment could be possible in the future. But what about digital telepathy, where one person can send messages directly to another person's brain? Well, that's also happening today. In a recent experiment, researchers used EEGs to allow two people to communicate with each other by sending each other written words. It's basically text messaging without using your hands. So what will mind reading be capable of in the future? Just imagine if you had a chip in your brain that translated your thoughts into commands. You would be able to control anything with just your mind. Computers, phones, robots, cars, anything. If you're feeling a little crazy, you can even use it to play games or watch movies. Imagine sitting down on the couch and just thinking about what you want to watch. A few minutes later, it would appear on your screen. No more fumbling with the remote control or trying to find the right channel. It might seem like a big fantasy, but this is actually something that we're already seeing today. The company Synchron has developed a system that allows you to control your environment with your mind. It uses a combination of sensors, software, and algorithms to translate your thoughts into actions. For example, you can tell the system to make your room colder by thinking about being cold. The system will then turn down the thermostat accordingly. Or, if you wanted to watch a movie, you could just think about it and the system would start playing it. Another big use case is in healthcare. Today, millions of people suffer from mobility or communication issues due to spinal cord injuries or neurological conditions like Parkinson's disease. But with mind-reading technology, we would be able to restore their mobility and communication. We'd also be able to treat a whole host of neurological conditions that are currently incurable, like depression, Alzheimer's disease, autism spectrum disorder. Some of these treatments are already being tested in humans today. For example, doctors at the University of California, San Diego are using deep brain stimulation to treat patients with Parkinson's disease. This procedure involves implanting electrodes in the brain and sending small electrical signals to specific areas. This helps to control the symptoms of the disease, such as tremors and stiffness. Now, this isn't quite mind reading yet, but it's a step in the right direction. And as technology continues to advance, we can expect these treatments to become more effective and more widespread. With mind-reading technology, we would be able to monitor patients' brains in real time and intervene as soon as possible. This would save countless lives and improve the quality of life for millions of people. In the future, we might be able to learn new skills by having them transferred directly to our brains. This is pure speculation on our part, but it's possible that we could download knowledge from experts or even artificial intelligence. If we could do this, it would revolutionize education and training. Anyone could become an expert at anything in just a matter of hours. It might even allow us to upload memories and experiences directly to our brains. Imagine being able to relive your favorite moments from the comfort of your home, or experience someone else's adventures as if they were your own. Of course, this is all science fiction at the moment, but it's not impossible that we could see these things happen in the future. After all, we're already using mind-reading technology to control computers and other devices with just our thoughts. So it's not too much of a stretch to imagine that we could eventually download skills and experiences directly to our brains. As mind-reading technology advances, it will change our interaction with the world around us forever. Instead of relying on our senses and physical capabilities, we'll be able to connect with our surroundings in new and innovative ways. These changes won't happen overnight, but as the technology continues to develop, we can expect to see some incredible advancements. Mind reading is no longer a fantasy or a futuristic concept. As this technology advances, it will change the world in ways we can't even imagine. Comment down below what you think about this and like this video. Stay tuned for more updates with subscribe.